You have a psychologist by the name of John Gottman. John Gottman is one of the leading researchers in the field of marriage today. And him and his colleagues, they came together and they followed around 130 newlyweds for about 6 years, trying to understand what is it that makes a successful marriage and what is it that causes them to flop. They came to a conclusion after the passage of 6 years that the key ingredient to a happy and stable family is when a husband allows his wife to influence him. And they found out the opposite of this, i.e. when a husband responds to the criticism or complaints of a wife by stonewalling or even belittling her sentiments, that most of these relationships fell apart. Over 4/5 of them, 81% to be specific, fell apart when there was no consultation between them. It's a phenomenal study and a statistic that requires a lot of thought. Now the question that poses itself here, why is it that husbands will resist this element of allowing their wives to influence them? Sometimes this is because of culture. Sometimes this is because of a type of behavior that was passed down from mom and dad. That's how you saw parents doing things. Dad never sought mom's opinion. So that just seems to be the done thing. That's how things are carried out. Sometimes it's a bit of ego issue. Sometimes it's because of perhaps an insecurity in some of us, as if to say, if I was to seek counsel from my wife, then it means that I'm incompetent, I'm unable to lead the family. And my position of manager or executive of the family is being called into question, so I can't doubt that. I don't want to be made to feel inadequate, powerless, and unable to lead. I would argue that the opposite is true, however. That when you do allow your wife, my brother, to influence you, wherever reasonable, the opposite happens. You earn the right to lead. You win legitimacy as an authority, as a gentle authority within the home, and someone who is to be respected and honored. So this is not something that we should be afraid of.
All right, I have no context with regards to this study. I haven't looked at it. I don't know the holes in it. I don't know how it's been interpreted. I don't know how the study was conducted. And this is very important when you're looking at quote unquote research or studies, that we need to know how the research was conducted, what were the variables and so on. However, let's just assume, for the sake of this video, because I haven't seen the study, let's just assume that everything he has spoken of is true. That everything that this study has identified is the truth. Men who are not open to the influence of their wives, their marriages last shorter than those marriages where men open themselves to the influence of their wives. Let's just say that everything that has been written in this study is the truth. Here's my concern. Concern number one. Human beings have a proclivity to swing from one extreme to the other because we're so scared of experiencing the harm that has been so clearly identified here that we believe falsely that if we run away as far as possible from this extreme here, as far away from it as possible, that we will be as far away from the harm as possible. And this is completely incorrect because you simply run to the other extreme. We see this today. Once upon a time, women in the West were completely oppressed. Then this thing called feminism came about. Initially, it gave women a few rights that they should have had all along. That indeed Islam gave women long before the West did. The rights of inheritance and so on and so forth. But now it swung all the way to the opposite way, where we have this weird Frankenstein creature called feminism, third wave feminism, which has basically reincarnated the modern day woman into some Frankenstein creature of a man, thinking this is liberation, thinking this is we have run away as far as possible from this extreme over here where women were genuinely and truly oppressed. And now women are liberated. They're not. We just ran from one extreme to another. And the opposite of extreme is what? Extreme. One more time. The opposite of extreme is still extreme. They are two sides of the same coin. So my concern here when we look at this study, the interpretation of this study is crucial. Women have an eye for detail. Women have an eye for nitpicking, even in arguments. And in arguments, this can be very annoying. But when seeking counsel from them, this can be very useful. And I want you to look at this in the analogy of a company. You have a CEO. or the army, you have a general, or a country, you have a president. The country has a president. The president has a vice president. The company has a CEO. The CEO has a CFO, COO, on and on. And in the context of marriage, you have the husband who is the head. However, just as in the context of a company, just as in the context of a country, just as in the context of an army, the president, the general, the CEO will consult with his subordinates, all the way down to grassroots, all the way down to the guy on the assembly line, all the way down to the field marshal, all the way down to the low-ranking officer in the army who's out there on the field. The general will consult with him from time to time to find out what's going on at the grassroots level, because those guys have a better pulse on the situation on the front line than the CEO does, than the president does, than the general does. What's my point? You as a man, as the CEO of your household, as the general, the president, the emperor of your household, whilst you are the decision maker, it is absolutely important for you to be open to the influence, to the ideas, to the details that your wife will have an eye for, that your wife will be able to pick out, that you may be blind to. Part of the role of being a leader is having the ability to see the bigger picture. If you're enjoying this breakdown so far, what are you waiting for, bruv? Smash the like button, headbutt that thing. The problem with that skill is that it means oftentimes you don't have the eye for the details, and the devil is in the detail. And that's where you consult with your subordinates. That's where you consult with your wife. So the way I want you to interpret this message is, and it's very, very important, is not to be the overbearing, the oppressive presence, dark cloud in the household, the only I am right and everybody else is wrong and I am not open to any of your opinions whatsoever, whether it's my wife or children or whoever it may be. That's one extreme. The other extreme, however, is to constantly consult your wife. Wife, what do you think about this? Wife, what do you think about that? Wife, what do you think about the third? Imagine the president did that. Imagine the general of the army did that. Imagine the CEO of a company did that. You would begin to call into question his credibility for the role, his ability to continue leading in that role. If that's how the president conducted himself, if that's how the CEO conducted himself, if that's how the general of the army conducted himself, constantly asking questions, constantly seeking counsel, non-stop. This is the opposite extreme of the first one, which is not seeking any counsel at all. And somewhere in the middle, there is a delicate balance whereby you consult with your wife. You are open to her opinions. I will be the first one to admit, my wives have pointed out time and again details that I have missed in my life, whether it doesn't matter what it is. It could be business. It could be videos I've created. It could be my interactions with people. Details. You guys know this. Women are great at nitpicking. Very, very annoying in an argument, but very useful if you're looking to uncover certain details. And this is how this message should be interpreted. This is how this study, if we are to presume that everything in the study is true and correct, as we have done so for the purpose of this video, because I haven't looked at the study and I'm sure we could find holes in it, but regardless, let's just say it's true. This is how you should interpret this message. Be open to counsel, be open to influence, but ultimately, you are the CEO, you are the president, you are the general, and you must display this competence as the CEO, president, general by having confidence in your ability to lead. Seek counsel every now and then when you feel necessary, or when you feel your subordinates, your wife, has a valid point to make. Be open to that. But you, sir, are in the driver's seat. Never forget that. Because if you do, believe me, your wife will be the first to oust you, just as the people will be the first to oust an incompetent president, just as the lieutenants of an army will be the first to create a coup of some sort and oust the general, just as the board of a company will be the first to oust the CEO. And if you want to know what type of man women are hopelessly attracted to, check out this video right here.